Alright, I'm back. Stream's still a little wonky, but I'm just gonna go with it. So, if it's buffering, I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with YouTube today. I watched a couple other YouTube videos that were live today and noticed that other people were having issues, but anyways, here we go. Anyways, long story short, Starfleet's no longer on Earth, and dilithium, of course, is on a shortage. And another thing that happens in this episode is that these raiders come, and they come for Discovery's dilithium because it just popped up in Earth orbit all of a sudden. And Michael and Booker go on Booker's ship because Booker was allowed to get some dilithium from Discovery. And also in this episode, Booker had to don a Starfleet uniform because, they didn't want him to be a suspect being a non Starfleet crewman when Earth Defense Force beamed over. Well, anyways, Michael and Booker go and they pretty much negotiate with these raiders that are coming for the dilithium. And what ends up happening is the next thing we see after some back and forth between Michael, Booker, and the captain of the ship is this captain's being dragged on to the bridge of Discovery, and he ends up removing the mask. And this mask, I know I didn't talk about it, but this mask basically looked like an early 1950s, 1930s, 1940s even science fiction helmet for an environmental suit or space suit, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, this raider removes the helmet and it's a frail looking human, he's looking disheveled. And the reason why is because he lived on the Jupiter colony at the Jupiter Science Research Station, which ends up separating from Earth. And they had a catastrophic event. And when is there not a catastrophic event in Discovery where everything's all doom and gloom? So far, I haven't seen one episode where it's even remotely Star Trek. But it's all doom and gloom. They lost a third of their colony, and they've also lost their ability to communicate with anybody outside of Jupiter orbit. So, long story short, Michael ends up making peace with them and getting Earth Defense and those in charge to make peace. And one thing that ends up happening is one of the Earth Defense officers, well, she ends up making it impossible for those from Earth Defense to beam off Discovery. And the reason why is because she's using a transporter inhibitor. They don't actually say why, but she's using a transporter inhibitor all because she wants to spend a little bit more time on Discovery, and also because we come to find out that Michael Burnham received a message from an Admiral Halster. Well, this Admiral Halster turns out to have been a Trill that had a symbiont, and the symbiont is now inside this young 16-year-old. So, with the symbiont inside the young 16-year-old, which again, I had issue with because, as we learned in Next Generation, when Riker had the symbiont in him, humans weren't compatible as far as, the symbiont and human physiology being compatible and allowing both the host and symbiont to live. It had to be a Trill. You had Ezri Dax, you had Jadzia Dax, you heard about Ebony Dax, you heard about Curzon Dax, of course. So any Trill that is given the honor of a symbiont has to be compatible with the host. if they're not compatible with the host, all things can happen, as we've seen before, especially on Deep Space Nine when they delved into that. But anyways, this 16-year-old officer has a symbiont and says that she's the admiral, and of course now she's going to end up staying on Discovery, and they're going to end up finding out where Starfleet headquarters is. But just before they leave Earth, the crew of Discovery wants to visit Starfleet Academy and hunker near a tree that has grown over the 900-year span that Discovery has been away. Well, at least since Discovery jumped from the 23rd century to the 31st century. Or 32nd century, sorry. So they're given permission to be near this tree, and that's pretty much this episode in a nutshell. You know, Tilly hugging Michael Burnham. Tilly hugs this tree. All is right in the world. Heck, you even had Robot Girl, not as Robot Girl,